Tonight, General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, joins in the call for the restructuring of the nation to avert a breakup. Some prominent Nigerians under the aegis of the Nigeria Leadership Initiative advocate strong national values as key to building a more united and sustainable country. National Human Rights Commission raises concern over increasing cases of torture allegedly by law enforcement personnel. And medical doctors attending to U.S. President Donald Trump say he is recovering well amid concern over his condition, plus business and sports.
On business news tonight, MTN and Airtel lead as Nigeria's telecom subscriber base hits 203 million in August.
The question of which structure is best for Nigeria is at the core of the current national debate, and more eminent Nigerians are joining the discourse. One of them is the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, who is calling for restructuring of the system. Speaking at a symposium to mark the 60th independence anniversary put together by the Redeemed Christian Church of God and the Nehemiah Leadership Institute, Pastor Adeboye says restructuring of the country must be done as soon as possible to forestall the breakup of the various socio-ethnic components that make up Nigeria. He proposed the adoption of a merger of the British model of government and the American system to pave the way for the Nigeria's stability.
I believe that probably we might need to look at the problem of Nigeria in a slightly different manner. You see, because some people feel that all our problems will be over if Nigeria should break up. I think that is trying to solve the problem of Nigeria as if it's a simple equation problem. We all know that we must restructure. I mean, it's either we restructure or we break. That means say you don't have to be a prophet to know that one. Why don't we have a president and a prime minister? If the president controls the army and the prime minister controls the police, if the president controls, can we say, resources like oil and mining, and the prime minister controls finance and inland revenue, taxes and customs, etc., etc. You just divide the responsibilities between the two in such a manner that one cannot really go all alone without the other. Maybe this is just a mathematical suggestion, and a mathematician can be eccentric, like I've said. Maybe we might begin to tackle the problem. And if we're going to adopt this model, which you eminent personalities will be able to talk about, I think then we will need urgently to restore what we used to call the House of Chiefs.
And as Nigerians continue their reflection on the state of the nation on the occasion of its 60th anniversary, the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammadu Sa'ad Abubakar, is urging Nigerians to brace the odds and make an effort in the task of nation building. In a message to mark the Diamond Jubilee, the President of the Nigeria Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs prays for the nation's prosperity and guidance for her leaders to succeed in building a nation that is beneficial for all citizens.
It is important for us as Nigerians to reflect, reunite, and forge ahead in the task of nation building with utmost patriotism. The journey ahead will still be full of great challenges, but with dedication, with patriotism, with the will to win, to succeed, and with the fear of Almighty Allah from all of us, we shall, inshallah, reach a very developed state that is befitting our great country, Nigeria. We pray to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to be kind to our great nation, Nigeria, guide our leaders aright, bless the entire citizenry, and guide this country to a very, very successful, developed stage, full of tranquility, full of hope, and full of blessings of yours always.
Away from the nation's independence anniversary, 2 years after President Buhari signed the Anti-Torture Act in 2017, the National Human Rights Commission says nothing much has changed as the number of cases of alleged torture by law enforcement personnel continues to increase. Both the National Human Rights Commission and the officials of Access to Justice, which is a justice advocacy group in Nigeria, maintain that there is an urgent need to train law enforcement personnel about the alternatives to torture as they try to extract credible evidence for prosecution.
There's been a series of protests across the country by citizens over alleged human rights abuses, especially torture by security personnel. Hence, when President Buhari signed the anti-torture bill into law in December 2017, many described it as an important milestone that would check the menace. 2 years after, the National Human Rights Commission says cases of alleged torture by law enforcement personnel have not reduced. For instance, the Commission says at least 100 cases of human rights violation, including torture, were recorded between March 30th and April 13th, 2020. The report also notes that 18 extrajudicial killings by the police were recorded during this period.
The first generation of rights.
Part of efforts to reduce these ugly statistics is one reason why the National Human Rights Commission and Access to Justice is having this training for police officers in Abuja. The focus is on finding alternative to torture.
As a law enforcement personnel, your ultimate aim in terms of criminal justice administration is to ensure that you protect the society and also bring to justice criminals. And in doing that, you are expected to do investigation and bring evidence before the court to be able to ground a conviction. So the Evidence Act is a very important law that helps you as a tool to achieve that aim.
In 2017, the president signed into law the Anti-Torture Act. One expected that with the act, there would be a reduction in cases of torture. But instead, what we seem to have is an increasing number of cases of torture.
The 2017 Anti-Torture Act criminalizes the use of torture or coercion for extracting evidence from a suspect. It also recommends a one-term imprisonment of not more than 25 years for anyone who is deemed to have committed torture. But these provisions alone may not be enough to solve the problem.
Government must make provisions in terms of funding, in terms of training for law enforcement agencies, for alternative investigative approaches. But then, there is no way we can ever justify the use of torture.
The police force has a constitutional duty to maintain law and order. Experts say to effectively carry out this duty, there's need for funding and training of personnel in order for them to act within the law.
To the fight against insurgency, as it continues in the northeast, the military says troops of Operation Hailstorm 2 of Operation Lafia Dole have neutralized several Boko Haram fighters at their hideouts in 2 settlements in Borno State. The coordinator of Defense Media Operations, Major General John Eneche, explained in a statement that the airstrikes were conducted by the Air Task Force in Meima and Tusuye, near Washale and Tungule, along the Dikwaran axis of Borno State on October the 1st. He said this operation followed credible human intelligence as well as a series of aerial surveillance missions which indicated that the locations were being used as rendezvous points by the Boko Haram terrorists. The Air Task Force subsequently dispatched a package of Nigerian Air Force fighter jets and helicopter gunships to engage the 2 locations, destroying some structure and killing several of the terrorists in the process. To politics, ahead of the Ondo State governorship election next Saturday, the Inspector General of Police has deployed the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of research and planning, Adeleye Oyebade, to administer the general security arrangements for the upcoming poll. According to the directive by the IGP, Mohammed Adamu, Mr. Oyebade will work with the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of federal operations, Department of Operations, Force Headquarters, Kaduma Hassan, and 11 commissioners of police. The deployment is to provide effective coordination and full implementation of security arrangements towards a peaceful election and to ensure enforcement of all electoral laws throughout the period of the election. Officers and men of the force, as well as the personnel of other security agencies deployed for the election, have also been asked by the IGP to conduct themselves professionally and work in line with best practices as highlighted in the Code of Conduct and Rules of Engagement for Elections. The police boss is soliciting the cooperation of members of the public, especially politicians and their supporters, to cooperate with the security operatives to guarantee hitch-free elections. Over 9 local government areas in Kogi State have been submerged by flood, leaving thousands of residents homeless. Now, the governor, Yahaya Bello, has promised succor to the affected people and asks those still living in the high-risk areas to relocate in order not to endanger their lives and those of their loved ones.
Even jeep cannot pass through here. Structures that used to be homes have been taken over by water. At this level, the canoes that were means of getting into the buildings have become useless. Residents barely save properties which made the structures home, as waste previously disposed in drainages make their way into their houses. Mr. Fatai Akmodu is one of the victims taking refuge in his shop with 3 children.
For anything when they feel airport, man, pack these children, go another place.
Major roads in the capital, Lokoja, have also been submerged, making it difficult for motorists to ply, causing gridlock, reminding many of the scenario in 2012.
If you go to Niger, their office, they have a pole which they use in measuring it. For now, I think what we have right now is exactly what we have in 2012. And if not for the embankment, we will have gone more than what we are.
All these do not come as a surprise, as NIMET had predicted that about 10 local government areas in Kogi State would be most affected by the flood this year. And the government says provision has been made for the victims.
We have flood hostels within flood estates in Lokoja. We have camps like the ones that we have in Filili, in Lokoja here, and so many others like that. In these various local governments too, we have desk officers there who already prepared their own camps to receive these victims.
The campaign is still on in the state, asking residents of flood-prone areas to relocate. However, like Mr. Akmodu, some say relocation is not that easy for them.
In part 2, after the break, in continuation of our series on Nigeria at 60, today we turn our attention to how the nation has fared in its health sector. We also take a look at the leadership initiative. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Ina Kadeboye, joins in the call for the restructuring of the nation to avert a breakup. Some prominent Nigerians under the aegis of the Nigeria Leadership Initiative advocate strong national values as key to building a more united and sustainable country. National Human Rights Commission raises concern over increasing cases of torture, allegedly by law enforcement personnel. And medical doctors attending to U.S. President Donald Trump say he's doing well amidst concern over his condition, plus business and sports. The Mina Bida and Mina Zungeru Road in Niger State have been cut off due to The deplorable condition of the roads, truck drivers from the southwestern states and those from the northern parts of the country have been trapped on that road for days. The state government blames the situation on the federal government's lack of attention to its roads that pass through Niger State, which it says forces truck drivers to ply the state-owned roads. It's now reconsidering closing down the Mina-Bida road, again 2 weeks after the federal government prevailed on the governor not to take the same action. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
Long queue of trucks stretching endlessly on the Mina-Bida road. The road has been cut off and movement stalled. It's a hopeless situation for the drivers.
Down there, so many accidents. Motor have fallen on somebody there. We are there since 5 days. Nobody will pass. See another one here.
Truly, we are suffering. From Lagos to the north, we spend 10 days or more. Many of the drivers have no money on them. We are facing serious hardship.
Many trucks have broken down, just as the drivers and some community members try to provide a temporary solution. Truck drivers plying the Mina-Zungeru road go through a similar ordeal where over 1,000 vehicles have been trapped for days. Meanwhile, drivers of smaller vehicles seek alternative routes, but it's no easy drive. Barely 3 weeks ago, the Niger State government took the decision to close down these roads to allow for smooth and quick execution of ongoing reconstruction. The federal government intervened, appealing for a stay of action, but the state government seems to be tired of waiting, saying it has reached its limit.
The main truck A1 road that should allow for movement of trucks and trailers between southwest and northern parts of the country is the Jaba, Mokwa, Tagina, Kagara, Pandogari, Binnangwari, Kaduna. That is the main trunk A1 road. But that road at the moment is not much trouble.
It's not certain how long the trucks will remain on the roads, but one thing is clear, the roads are a dead end, at least for now.
Many of the trailer drivers have spent at least 4 days here because of the condition of the road. Now, there are over 2,000 trailers on this road that have been stocked for more than 4 days. It's a very pathetic situation for the people. They are not deterred. They keep making effort to see how they can move away from this place. From Bida Road in Niger State, Emperor Simon, Channel Television News.
From smallpox and Lassa fever to polio, Nigeria has had its struggles against a number of diseases in its 60 years of nationhood. Most of the battles have been won, polio being the latest, which finally saw Nigeria as the last African country to exit the list of polio endemic nations. The fight against COVID-19 continues, however. Although health indices have improved generally, infrastructural and manpower deficits, as well as strikes and interprofessional wranglings, continue to be an issue. Now, in continuation of our series on Nigeria's Diamond Jubilee, our correspondent Mary Alala Yusuf takes a look at the country's health sector.
The pace of growth and development in Nigeria's health sector is at variance with the country's growing population, such that the doctor-to-patient ratio stands at about 1 to 3,000. It does not help that medical personnel have been leaving our shores in droves. According to the 2018 Demographic and Health Survey, 1 in 8 children dies before its 5th birthday. This represents a decrease in the under-5 mortality rate since 2008 from 157 per 1,000 live births to 132 per 1,000 live births. By 2000, the year the World Health Organization set for the globe to be free of poliomyelitis, Nigeria was still grappling with the disease and only recorded a 3-year hiatus from it 19 years later. The coveted polio-free tag came in 2020.
Everything that we have been doing as a nation, we must keep on doing until the virus is completely eliminated from the world.
The year was 2014. It was late July when Ebola, a virulent zoonotic disease, hit the country. It was set to cause damage to unsuspecting Nigerians, but Dr. Stella Adadevo recognized the disease and to a large extent isolated it. She died when she contracted the infection, but had kept it from spreading uncontrollably. According to experts, the basic infrastructure used to defeat Ebola in 2014 was built upon to fight COVID-19. But scientists don't fully understand the virus yet. And in Nigeria, no fewer than 58,000 cases have been recorded. It exposed the country's health structure as weak, but is shining a spotlight on research.
We used to send our samples abroad for testing, but now most of those equipment that they have abroad, we have them in Nigeria. The index case, as soon as it came, within 3 days, we had sequenced it.
Dissatisfied with conditions of service, professionals in the sector still go on strikes to protest poor infrastructure, among other things. And this was most evident when even the wife of the president complained of a lack of supplies in the presidential hospital. Of considerable concern also is the disagreement between doctors and workers in other health professions, which at the end of the day affects the patients most. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
And we have more for you on this issue. Earlier, I spoke with the president of the Nigerian Medical Association, Professor Innocent Uja, and I began by asking him to assess the state of Nigeria's health system 60 years as an independent nation.
Very much for having me, and good evening and happy independence. Nigeria has come a long way. The assessment is very varied. First, Nigeria at 60 had only one hospital. Today, we had over 70 federal establishments and federal medical centers, federal teaching hospitals, specialist hospitals. These are for federal government, and the various teaching various states also have developed and established their own hospitals. As far as the number, it will appear that Nigeria is doing very well. Now, doctors, the number of doctors had increased up to about 40,000 doctors in Nigeria, but these are not enough. So largely, we can say that Nigeria has moved in terms of infrastructural development in the health sector and also capacity development. But the reality is that we have not gone there yet. The health indices have remained poor. Infant mortality is very high. Neonatal deaths is quite high, maternal mortality is very high, and the referral system is very poor. For instance, many of the roads are not accessible, and therefore in emergency situations, you cannot send out anybody, patients on time to assess emergencies. So by and large, it is seen that I think it's work in progress. Nigeria would have achieved more, but we believe that at the moment, we need to do more.
Professor, in spite of the apparent weakness in the health sector, there has been some consistent improvements, if you like, in some indices. Take, for instance, the case of Ebola that was handled relatively quickly. 2, we're now certified polio-free. And thirdly, there has been some proper handling, as it were, success in tackling of the COVID-19 pandemic. What is fueling these successes?
Well, it is true. We are glad and we are happy that we are now polio free, not after a lot of obstacles and setbacks. But on the final note, we are now polio free. However, we did very well with Ebola virus in 2014. We also tried to do better, probably in 2020 for the COVID-19 response. But I must say that the COVID national response should have been better handled. The national coordination is not as good as we would have expected. And it's also true that COVID-19 has exposed the nakedness and the weakness of the health system in Nigeria. Therefore, we use the lessons of COVID-19 to improve our health infrastructure and facilities. And I had always said this, and I'm sure others would still agree with me, that we need to have a health bank. A health bank, just like Bank of Industry, just like Bank of Agriculture, so that we can build the state-of-art facilities and then curb medical tourism. Those who go to India go to private hospitals, they don't go to government hospitals. And we believe that if we have a health bank, then we have a low interest rate so that people can build, there will be a consortium of health professionals and others so that they can put up-to-date equipment, hospitals with up-to-date facilities. That will help our people, and I think that that's the way to go. The private sector development in the health sector is not the best. We also know that the National Health Insurance Scheme is not doing very well, and we believe that every Nigerian adult should pay for health and therefore should be enrolled in the National Health Insurance Scheme so that we have sufficient fund to be able to deal with health situations in Nigeria. Health is very expensive, and if we depend on government alone, we will never get there. So private sector participation is very important, and I think that we should have a bank for health in Nigeria.
Moving on to other stories, the Western Naval Command of the Nigerian Navy has confirmed the overall operational preparedness, efficiency, and state of ships, units, and establishments in the command. This comes as an American Navy ship visited the command to take part in the sea exercise and boost relations between both navies. The participating ships include NNS Eku, NNS Prosperity, NNS Nguru, and NNS Ekulu, amongst others, plus a detachment of special boat services and Nigerian Navy helicopters.
This is a return to harbor on completion sea inspection exercise to assess the Western Naval Command fleet level of preparedness and readiness. A busy day for the Flag Officer commanding the Western Command and other naval officials who have to stay vigilant in order not to miss out any unscrupulous movement at sea that might constitute a breach. During the exercise, maneuvers and evolutions were conducted, which included vessel boarding, search and seizure, launching and recovering a boat, high-speed fleet maneuvers, gunnery exercise, and action station drills, amongst others. Once in a while, the Naval Command goes on surveillance to also check its readiness for any eventuality.
We have gone around all the establishments and units under the Western Naval Command from Badagry, Lagos, Ibokoda, Imeri, and we are capping it up with the inspection of the ships at sea. Earlier on, we had inspected the ships in harbor, and the essence of the sea inspection is to actually ensure that all the systems, the weapons, communications are functional.
The visit of the American Navy ship is to foster increased relationship and test the capacity of the Nigerian Navy to protect the country's maritime space. 6 naval ships took part in that exercise.
maritime environment is very critical to the economy. Even when we had a shutdown, there was still the need to promote trade and economic activities. And so it was very important that the sea lanes of communication, our sea routes, are kept open, so that economic activities could still thrive. And so the maritime activity within this period would still need to continue in spite of the lockdown.
The Nigerian Navy says it's running tests and exercises to keep its fleet and personnel in shape to take up any security challenge in the nation's marine environment.
And to the nation's independence anniversary, the celebration of Nigeria's 60th independence has provided the opportunity for Nigerians to continue discussions on how to chart a new course for a sustainable nation. One of those platforms is a webinar organized by the Nigeria Leadership Initiative, NLI, where the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, says merit and ethnic balance should be emphasized in the quest for strong and a united country. The consensus of speakers and participants at the forum is that sustainable economic growth and development cannot be achieved unless the country builds a strong national value system and develops patriotic Nigerians who live these values.
We're joined today by His Excellency, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo.
The webinar is the first in the series designed by the Nigeria Leadership Initiative to spark conversation about values and to explore solutions that would inspire actions towards rebuilding the country's national value system.
So establishing the right values is an investment that we make in our greatest asset, and that is our people. So this webinar is a call to action by the NLI.
That sets the tone for the conversation. The special guest of honor, former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, advocates deliberate tending of values at all levels of education.
History and civic education studies should be reintroduced, and the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, should also be re-engineered as originally envisaged to serve as a program during which values-based leadership principles are discussed and encouraged.
The keynote speaker, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, emphasizes the need to promote merit and the rule of law instead of ethnic and religious balance in the leadership structure.
The dominant principle should be merit. Federal character is essentially affirmative. What it seeks to do is to create a balance. But even if we were to create that balance should still be based on merit. So, for example, if we say that a particular zone should produce a particular candidate for whatever position, that zone should be required to provide or to produce the very best. And it is possible to find the very best. What you find repeatedly is a situation where the choices are not based on merit. And of course, everything simply goes around the whole question of, well, all we're trying to do is to create a balance.
For the Senate President, family and curriculum alignment is critical.
When we teach in our schools, we should have curricula that will continuously be modified, redesigned, redefined to meet the challenges that we face. Today, because of the availability of the internet, keeping to core values, teaching them and continuously exemplifying and playing them out requires more efforts.
The views of these lead speakers offer the platform for the panelists who proffer even more practical solutions.
So it's if we can reach that consensus of enlightened self-interest, understanding that we all benefit if we create a better social code that allows us to create a better society, which will have impact in every other area of our lives.
I think there's need for us to stress the
the fact that there should be a national value statement by our motto encapsulates this indeed when it talks about unity and faith, peace and progress. But this then should make us think, well, how we can consciousness of the Nigerian public, both the young and the old.
There's always the need to prioritize social virtues as we involve the youth in the process of rebuilding.
Nigerian youth need to have an identity as such that makes us feel we are part of something as Nigerians, that makes us feel we are included in everything that Nigeria revolves around.
You want to make sure that promotion is not based on ability to recite public service rules and to name which states of Nigeria are named after rivers. It should actually be based on a demonstrated ability to show an understanding and a commitment to the ethics and values that bind the country.
The thoughts garnered in this webinar is inexhaustible, coming in the wake of the launch of the National Ethics and Integrity Policy. It may further challenge relevant agencies to take the implementation of the policy seriously. The Nigerian Leadership Initiative, NLI, is an international, non-partisan organization with a membership of over 400 highly accomplished Nigerians at home and in the diaspora. Since 2006, NLI has been playing a significant role in helping to transform the country, promoting an understanding and appreciation of its foundational values, while also highlighting the importance of value-based leadership and followership.
From national values and leadership to the south-south region of the country, where an explosion has rocked the River State-owned Flour Mill Company Limited, located along Industry and Harbour Road in Port Harcourt City in River State. The explosion, which occurred on Friday night, is said to have affected nearby buildings, causing panic amongst residents. Though the cause of the explosion at the flour mill, which has been non-functional for over a year, could not be immediately ascertained, eyewitnesses described the sound resulting from it as very loud. One of them says though the factory was not operational, some persons were seen offloading some unspecified product when he left the facility about the time the incident took place. The River State Commissioner for Special Duties confirmed the incident but insists no casualty was recorded. The Tech Experience Center, an ambitious technology project that is widely expected to bridge the gap to cutting-edge technology for millions of Nigerians, has been described as the perfect birthday present for Nigeria as it turns 60. The Revolutionary Tech Experience Center, the first of its kind in Africa, was formally unveiled on October the 1st, 2020, incidentally, the occasion of Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary.
For over 17 years, Xenox has helped people within and outside Nigeria achieve their dreams and aspirations, as well as deploy their potential to create wealth, using technology to prefer solutions to the day-to-day challenges they face at work, home, and even at play. Xenox is again creating state-of-the-art technology, launching its Experience Center that has been much anticipated, which will bridge the gap in cutting-edge technology for millions of Nigeria as a perfect birthday gift to Nigeria, and it's arriving at the time Nigeria clocked 60 years.
Wow, it's happening live. It's official! The Tech Experience Center is open!
The chairman of Xenox Group is not doing this alone. The Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, as well as the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, are here to grace the occasion. After taking a tour of the facility, the representatives of the federal and state government expressed their satisfaction. They say this is what the country needs to drive the digital economy.
Our target of achieving a digital Nigeria is realistic, because this is a clear indication that at least we have people in the private sector that are willing to support government policy and achieve a digital Nigeria.
The more you reduce, you increase the density of bandwidth, the GDP of every country increases by about 16%. So if you keep increasing it, then the possibilities our GDP will increase, our economy will grow more, Naira will appreciate a bit better, and of course, it's the tendency is for us to live a better life as Nigerians.
For Xenox Technologies, the initiative represents a major milestone in Nigeria's march to technological independence.
We've been able to partner with the global number ones in different sectors of technology and make it real. So it's an endorsement for this country that these big names could partner with us to create a world-class experience center. Definitely the first in Africa, likely the first in the world.
According to Xenox, the Revolutionary Tech Experience Center is the first of its kind in Africa that will promote knowledge and digital democracy in Nigeria and beyond.
After working on the Community and Social Development Projects Initiative for 11 years, the governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kadi Fayemi, has met with concerned indigents to assess the impact on the community. The World Bank-supported Poverty Reduction Initiative aims at accelerating development at the community level in 30 states of the Federation and is at the winding down stage in Ekiti State.
The World Bank-supported Community and Social Development Projects Initiative in Ekiti State has been part of development projects across the state since its inception in 2009. From roads, water, healthcare facilities to rural electrification projects, among others, the initiative has filled up some developmental gaps. This is Temidire community in Ekiti, a people who predominantly farm and produce palm oil. They have been battling the challenge of unsafe water. But the story is different now, following the intervention of the Ekiti State Social and Community Development Agency.
We suffer. Even when this thing dry finish, we go to long distance and look for water.
Although this box culvert has made the Arokun Adongbon community in Ikere Ekiti more accessible, residents want the approach roads fixed.
Sometimes if there rain, we can't pass here and we can't even go to school.
This ceremony marks the winding down of the 11-year-old intervention program and an opportunity for appraisals and recommendations.
There are some communities that did not label. If you get there today, you cannot say that they were facilitated by accident.
Governor Kadi Fayemi describes the intervention as worthwhile.
The communities have been consistently active, even contributing in some cases up to 10% of the budget. And our approach on our projects was actually to give the community the money. So they look for the contractors, they monitor the project, they do their bookkeeping, and all we do is supervise. And we found out consistently that it's considerably cheaper to run these projects through the community.
The Fayemi administration says the state contributed more than 370 million naira in counterpart funding over the last 10 years, and the state ranks overall third performing state on the projects nationally. Babajide Agbeyo, Channels Television News.
And here to catch us up to speed on business news is Teniola Shobowale.
Thanks, Olumide. Welcome to Business News. The number of mobile telecom subscribers in Nigeria rose to 203.1 million in August. That's according to the latest data from the Nigerian Communications Commission. According to the report, this represents an increase of 4.2 million users added to the 198.96 million subscribers recorded in July. Further analysis of the data shows that South African telecom giant MTN gained 2.73 million new subscribers, followed by Airtel with 1.06 million. Nine Mobile came third, adding 214,282 new users, while Globacom was fourth with 192,327 new subscribers within the period. The African Development Bank has been selected as the best issuer of a COVID-19 bond for its $3 billion denominated Fight COVID-19 social bond issued on March the 27th this year. According to a statement, the winners of the Global Capital Bond Award 2020 were announced on September the 30th at a ceremony held virtually for the first time in 12 years. The Fight COVID-19 bond, which was flouted on the Luxembourg Stock Exchange and significantly oversubscribed, was the world's largest social bond at time of issuance. The bank has since listed the bond on both the London Stock Exchange and Nasdaq, while bond proceeds, which have a 3-year maturity, will go to alleviate the impact of the pandemic on livelihoods and Africa's economies. The AFDB, which is Africa's premier development finance institution, is rated AAA by all the major global rating agencies. The bulls have had the best month so far at the equities market as the NSE's main index ended September strong at 5.9%, while the year-to-date performance turned positive at 0.5%. On a weekly comparison, the market's two key indicators jumped by 2.53 and 2.55% each on the back of investors' interest for high-value stocks such as MTN Nigeria, as well as major components from all key sectors of listed equities, except the consumer goods sector, which recorded some profit taken. 36 equities recorded strong gains, in particular the shares of Total, which gains closed the week higher by 21%. Cornerstone recorded the biggest margin drop among 14 losers after a 15.49% loss, while 112 equities were unchanged within 4 trading sessions. Overall, transactions for the week stands at 1.53 billion shares, worth over 16 billion naira, all traded in more than 17,800 deals and largely driven by the shares of Zenith, Sterling Bank and UBA. Meanwhile, activities at the bond secondary market ended the week bullish as investors reinvested coupon payments and maturities. This comes as the average yield across instruments contracted by 24 basis points to 6.8%. Across the benchmark curve, demand was heavy at the short and mid segments as investors brought up the January 2022 and July 2030 bonds, while sell-off was recorded on the July 2034 bond. Meanwhile, analysts expect trading in the Treasury bond secondary market to remain in bullish in coming days this week as a significant portion of expected maturities is reinvested in the bonds market. On the other hand, trading at the Treasury bills secondary market was bearish this week on the back of reduced system liquidity and market participants focusing on the primary market. As a result, the average yield across all instruments expanded by 13 basis points to 1.9%. At the primary market auction, the central bank rolled out over 133.97 billion naira worth of instruments with allotments of 10 billion naira of the 91-day, 17.60 billion naira of the 182-day, and 106.37 billion naira of the 364-day paper at stop rates of 1.08%, 1.49%, and 2.80% each. Meanwhile, analysts expect improved trading volumes in the market next week on the back of expected inflows to the system and sustained investors' apathy for yields at current levels. And that's business news tonight. It's back to Olumide for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Teniola. Now, time for sports news. Here's Kayode Alayande.
Thank you, Olumide. Welcome to Sports News. Frank Lampard's Chelsea returned to winning ways in the Premier League with a convincing 4-0 victory over Crystal Palace at Stamford Bridge. Goals from Ben Chilwell, Kurt Zouma and 2 penalties from Jorginho gave the Blues a well-deserved victory. Elsewhere, Everton produced another dominant performance to beat Brighton 4-2 at Goodison Park. Manchester City were hailed to a 1-1 draw by newcomers Leeds United at Elland Road. In the last game of the day, Newcastle beat Burnley 3-1 at St. James's Park. And Manchester United are in talks to sign former Paris Saint-Germain forward Edinson Cavani. The 33-year-old Uruguay international is a free agent after 7 years in the French capital, and discussions are underway over a possible move to Old Trafford. Cavani would offer Ole Gunnar Solskjaer an additional experienced option in the attack as United look to challenge on 4 fronts this season. That'll be all on sports news. Back to you, Lumide.
Thank you, Kayode. On the foreign scene, health officials say U.S. President Donald Trump is doing very well in hospital after his COVID-19 diagnosis, but their account has been disputed. His personal doctor, Sean Conley, said he was not receiving supplemental oxygen and had been fever-free for 24 hours. However, raising more questions moments later, the White House Chief of Staff expressed concern about the president's condition, saying he was not yet on a clear path to recovery.
In an upbeat report after his first night in hospital for coronavirus treatment, U.S. President Donald Trump is said to be doing very well.
It's important to note the president's been fever-free for over 24 hours. We remain cautiously optimistic, but he's doing great. I don't want to put a hard date on that. He's doing so well.
His personal doctor, Sean Conley, says President Trump is not currently on oxygen, but refused repeatedly to rule out that he had received supplemental oxygen. He adds that though President Trump's condition is improving, it's unclear how long the president will need to remain in hospital.
At this time, the team and I are extremely happy with the progress the president has made. Thursday, he had a mild cough and some nasal congestion and fatigue, all of which are now resolving and improving.
Despite White House assurances, the president's move to the hospital on Friday evening raised questions about the seriousness of his condition. A source familiar with the president's health told U.S. media on Saturday that the president was still not on a clear path to a full recovery. But shortly after, the 74-year-old president tweeted that he's feeling well and thanked the staff at the Walter Reed Medical Center for their help. Meanwhile, officials say First Lady Melania Trump, who also has the virus, is recuperating at the White House. 10 people in the president's camp have now tested positive for the coronavirus. 7 of them attended an event last weekend in the White House Rose Garden, where President Trump announced his pick to be the next Supreme Court justice. President Trump's illness comes a month before the November election. His opponent, Joe Biden, who took part in the first U.S. presidential debate on Tuesday, has tested negative for the virus.
Let your senators know how strongly you feel.
And the main news again. The General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, today joined in the call for the restructuring of the nation to avert a breakup. Also today, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, insisted that merit and ethnic balance is what is needed in the quest for a strong and united country. The Vice President spoke at a webinar organized by the National Leadership Initiative. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Olumide Macaulay. You have a good night.